He was an American civil rights leader and founder of a major labor movement, Cesar Chavez. I'm Tyrone Bowman. This is Tyrone Bowman Tonight. As we're getting started, if you're passing by and you happen to be viewing this video on this evening, would you kindly, if you like the content that you're hearing, would you kindly hit the like button? Also, would you subscribe to the Tyrone Bowman Tonight YouTube channel and tell your friends and your family and your relatives about it as well. Also, if there's a particular topic or issue that you'd like for me to discuss, drop a comment to me in the comment section below, and I'll be glad to check it out for you. Or you can email me at btyrone443 at yahoo.com, and I will be glad to check it out for you. And now let's get on to the topic of discussion for this evening. The Mexican-American labor leader and civil rights activist, Cesar Chavez, dedicated his life's work to what he called La Causa, or the cause, the struggle of farm workers in the United States to improve their working and living conditions through organizing and negotiating contracts with their employers. Committed to the tactics of nonviolent resistance practiced by Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Chavez founded the National Farm Workers Association of America and won important victories to raise pay and improve working conditions for farm workers in the late 1960s and 70s. Cesar Estrada Chavez was born in Yuma, Arizona on March 31st, 1927. In the late 1930s, after losing their homestead to foreclosure, he and his family joined more than 300,000 people who moved to California during the Great Depression and became migrant farm workers. Chavez dropped out of high school after 8th grade and began working in the fields full-time. In 1946, he joined the United States Navy, serving for 2 years in a segregated unit. After his service was over, he returned to farm work and married Helen Fabila, with whom he would eventually have 8 children and 31 grandchildren. In 1952, Chavez was working at a lumber yard in San Jose when he became a grassroots organizer for the Community Service Organization, a Latino civil rights group. Over the next decade, he worked to register new voters and fight racial and economic discrimination, and rose to become the CSO's national director. Chavez resigned from the CSO in 1962 after members refused to support his efforts to form a labor union for farm workers. That same year, he used his life savings to found the National Farm Workers Association in Delano, California. Chavez knew firsthand the struggles of the nation's poorest and most powerless workers, who labored to put food on the nation's tables while often going hungry themselves. Not covered by minimum wage laws, many made as little as 40 cents an hour and did not qualify for unemployment insurance. Previous attempts to unionize farm workers had failed, as California's powerful agricultural industry fought back with all the weight of their money and political power. Chavez was inspired by the nonviolent civil disobedience pioneered by Gandhi in India and the example of St. Francis of Assisi, the 13th century Italian nobleman who gave up his material wealth to live with and work on behalf of the poor. Working doggedly to build the NFWA alongside fellow organizer Dolores Huerta, Chavez traveled around the San Juan and Imperial Valleys to recruit union members. Meanwhile, Helen Chavez worked in the fields to support the family as they struggled to stay afloat. In September 1965, the NFWA launched a strike against California grapes workers. Alongside the Agriculture Workers Organizing Committee, a Filipino-American labor group, the strike lasted 5 years and expanded into a nationwide boycott of California grapes. The boycott drew widespread support thanks to the highly visible campaign headed by Chavez, who led a 340-mile march from Delano to Sacramento in 1966 and undertook a well publicized 25-day hunger strike in 1968. I am convinced that the truest act of courage, the strongest act of manliness, is to sacrifice ourselves for others in a totally nonviolent struggle for justice, Chavez declared in a speech read on his behalf when his first hunger strike ended. To be a man is to suffer for others. God help us to be men. The grape strike and boycott ended in 1970, with the farm workers reaching a collective bargaining agreement with major grape growers that increased the workers' pay and gave them the right to unionize. The NWFA and AWOC had merged in 1966 to form the United Farm Workers Organizing Committee, which in 1971 became the United Farm Workers of America. Throughout the 1970s, Chavez continued leading the nation's efforts to win labor contracts for farm workers across the agricultural industry, employing the same agricultural nonviolent techniques of strikes and boycotts. Let me read that again. Throughout the 1970s, Chavez continued leading the union's efforts to win labor contracts for farm workers across the agricultural industry, employing the same nonviolent techniques of strikes and boycotts. In 1972, he went on a second hunger strike to protest an Arizona law banning farm workers from organizing and protesting. Thanks to the UFW's efforts, California passed the landmark Agricultural Labor's Relation Act in 1975, giving all farm workers the right to unionize and negotiate for better wages and working conditions. In the mid-1980s, Chavez focused the UFW's efforts on a campaign to highlight the dangers of pesticides for farm workers and their children. In 1988, at the age of 61, he underwent his third hunger strike, which lasted for 36 days. Chavez transitioned peacefully in his sleep on the 23rd of April of 1993 at the age of 66. The following year, President Bill Clinton awarded him a posthumous Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian award, in a sign of the labor leader's enduring influence. Barack Obama borrowed a Chavez slogan. Now I hope I can get it right. Si pueda, or yes, we can, during his successful run to become the first U.S. president in 2008. So the next time you're able to go to the store to purchase those oranges, grapes, tangerines, and all the wonderful vegetables that we so urgently need, think of Cesar Chavez and all of the migrant workers who paid a dear price for us to be able to have liberty in these areas. On this program, we will continue to highlight the accomplishments, the achievements, the historical significance of all men and women from all faiths, ethnicities, religions, and walks of life, irregardless of color, creed, or sexuality. I'm interested in having a program that is going to bring inspirational, motivational teaching. And I'll be back with a powerful teaching on tomorrow. And remember this, it is better to be nice to people instead of doing nice things. Cesar Chavez, you may be gone, but you're not forgotten. Rest throughout eternity. Never surrender, never quit.